BDO South Africa is a professional audit, tax, and advisory firm that's part of a global network of firms in over 160 countries. We have offices in 7 locations nationally with more than 2,400 qualified staff ready to assist our clients. Welcome to our Clarity Unscripted podcast. Here, you will find transparent content that's both insightful and unfiltered. No holds barred, just pure clarity.
Welcome to yet another episode of Clarity Unscripted. Today, we're with Leo Oosthuizen, and he's got some amazing stories from number 13 Wellington. He's a CFO at the FLL Foundation, and he'll tell us more about it. Leo, welcome. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks for the invite from Byron as well. Yeah, been quite an interesting ride. Just having a chat beforehand with regards to where I've come from, 13 Wellington Road, and how this new wonderful building looks. It's amazing to see how BDO has grown from strength to strength by the look of things.
Thank you very much for that, Leo. Leo, give us the story. Who is Leo Oosthuizen? How did you become a chartered accountant? Let us know where you come from, what you're about.
Yeah, so always been in the finance industry. My parents both are financially inclined, working in the bank industry, and my mom in the accounting side of business. So it was a normal transition for me to move from school to university and study finance as a whole. Have to add on to when you do your school, you kind of always look at what your options are. My accounts were set up or my subjects were set up to be able to look after finance as well as in the engineering route. Sitting here today, I sometimes still doubt myself whether I should have gone the engineering route or not. But the reality of it is that when we got to the university and we had to look at what subjects are available, what the class schedules are, and sadly or greatly, the class schedule for finance was a lot less intense than what the engineering side of it was. So kind of made the decision a bit easier moving on with regards to studying finances going forward, So yeah, been a nice journey. Was able to get my articles at BDO. So my career started here at BDO, and what a nice ride it was. I was at BDO for 5 years.
So maybe take us through that period, when you were actually doing articles. How was that articles experience? How did you find that, and then post that becoming a supervisor? How was that? Did you enjoy audit? What was it all about? Take us back there.
When you're here for that first day interview, I can still remember it quite clearly, being so excited, your first step into the big world. Just been a student for many years and trying to now toughen up, if I can call it that, and I can remember receiving my laptop. That for me was like a big thing, just to have my own laptop. And sadly, I never got my password.
Jeez,
so
okay.
we had our introduction session in December, and we had to start in January, the first day on the 4th or the 3rd of January of that year. And I had to wait that whole month before I could switch my laptop on.
What was wrong with the password?
I did not know what it was. And I felt so shy or too scared to send an email to anybody. In those days, you feel like a minion. Well, we were minions. And starting that first day, standing there in the foyer of 13 Wellington, it was a little foyer. I think there was maybe one desk, and then you had to get into this dodgy lift. And
everyone remembers the lift.
Yeah, the lift, and everybody sitting there, sussing each other out, and you're looking at obviously the ladies as well, and you're kind of like asking yourself, who are the good oaks here, and who are the guys that you're going to have a good time with for the next 3 years? And I can tell you, those days, I don't know what happens today, but those days we were 30 clerks that joined annually, So every year there was about 30 of us coming in, and then about 10 or so of us went into pensions. I did not. And then the rest of us got thrown into the deep end with regards to managing audits.
Yeah.
Or running audits, completely wet behind the ears, not knowing what to expect. And all I was interested in is, where's my email address and can I turn my laptop on, So met quite a lot of good people. The camaraderie, the fact that I believe the 30 of us were quite tight, and we still are in contact with some of us till today. And a lot of good people came out of it, successful people came out of it.
And yourself included.
Well, Luckily, I mean, some of them are still here at BDO, funny enough, 20 years down the line or 25 years down the line, I've lost count. But good times, small environment, everybody going through the same pains, with studying, getting through your studies and your articles as well, trying to balance the work life and study type of environment.
And how did you balance that? I mean,
I did not.
Okay, let's hear
it was always a challenge because, I'm sitting here not in audit, being the CFO of a company is really a privilege. But I've always been more involved in the operation side, trying to fix things, getting your fingers into the deep end and trying to fix all the wrongs. And that fortunately has helped me through my career to grow, not to be scared to raise your voice and raise your opinion, and through all of that, I've been able to grow gradually as my professional career started at BDO, and from there obviously grown into being a financial manager, which has been great. I can honestly say that there's no day that you don't learn anything new, and as much as you want to think you know everything, you can learn something new from a senior person or even a low-end person as you go along, because everybody does have an opinion, and that matters. People need to be listened to, and through that you can grow yourself as well. So what a wonderful experience, and so far a great journey that I have been part of. So wonderful.
It's absolutely exciting. I mean, going through all those days of being a clerk, waiting for a password, and now you're absolutely running the CFO role. But what does a CFO do? Because there's some viewers probably sitting at home like, but you're CFO, what do you actually do? Do you wait for month end? Do you just reconcile? What does a CFO actually do? How does your day look like? Paint a picture for us.
So being the CFO of a company is not always what it's out to be. There's a lot of pressures and strains because when you are working in finance and you're the financial manager of a company, your like you have mentioned, your mindset is always around how you reconcile your balance sheet. How do you get your books to be looking good for the audit that's coming at the end of the year? You're working towards deadlines all the time. But as soon as you become the CFO of a company, your responsibilities change. Yes, you still have those responsibilities, but over and above that, you need to make sure that the business ticks over. You need to be involved in all aspects of business to understand what the strategy is. You need to be part of driving that strategy and building that strategy. And also looking at things that are a bit more holistic from a finance point of view. Where do you get your funding from? How do you build the business and how do you grow the business, especially in a tough economic environment like we are currently dealing with, not just in South Africa, but in the whole world. Yeah. Cash is king. That is something that I have learned over the years, that, you can manage your income statement, you can do your provision journals, and you can look at how you would like to put them forward and justify your assumptions. But at the end, you can have a good-looking income statement, maybe a fairly strong balance sheet, but if you don't have the cash, you struggle. So various ways and means on how strategically one can grow your cash book or your cash balance. And that's where I find it very exciting, is to look at how one can grow a business and how one can build sustainability into a business. Not just always looking at what the numbers are from an income statement point of view and a month-to-month, day-to-day measuring of the operations, but also the holistic perspective of what is that picture you would like to look at in 5 years' time, and how do you propose to get there? And obviously, being the CFO and reporting into the board at FLL Foundation, there are a lot of opinions, a lot of strategies that's going about. And to dissect between all of those and to kind of give the direction as to which ones do you take on for now, which ones do you put on the back burner a bit, which ones are feasible. And those decisions are the tough ones that you need to stand up at the end of the year at the AGM in front of all of those people, all of your stakeholders, and report back to them. It's exciting. It's a lot of pressure. You don't always sleep so well at night. But I can tell you at the end of the day, all of that is worth the pride that you get to see the end result at the end of the day by making a success of what you do. Obviously, COVID also is a big impact. Our industry in the retirement sector has been hard hit by COVID. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but the president locked down care centres and retirement villages as a whole, which meant that we weren't allowed to allow any visitors into our portfolios. And what then happens is you also don't get any new clients buying into your product in your module. With that happening, you kind of go a little bit backwards. So COVID has been a big challenge. But subsequently, we've been able to increase our cash by probably 500%.
Geez, that's amazing. Wait, Leo, that's a big number. Take us through how you've done that. What strategies do you?
Look, and the thing is, numbers are statistics are statistics, and you can take what you want out of it. But if you are on overdraft, then you kind of recover that. Then the base is low. So I'll take that one and say, yes, we've grown it quite a lot. Post-COVID, obviously, the market opened up a bit and we were able to grow it with regards to the demand that picked up again. But currently, again, it ebbs and flows. It's been the winter months do have an impact on aged individuals' appetite to take risk and to go out and about and have a look. But in reality, myself and the CEO have been working well together to build a strong business that, for now and the foreseeable future, are sound. We can now rather focus on holding cash. We can focus on growing the portfolio, improving on those type of things. But I must say, when you have gone through the trenches and you've built a bit of not a war chest, but some surplus funds, to spend it is a tough one. It's a tough one. It's like your baby that you're holding on to it, and those decisions become more and more tough. With the environment that we are trading in, and Eskom giving us a hard time, solar energy is on top of our minds. There are a lot of products out there, a lot of guys that sell you the dream. And to suss between that also, is a big part of our portfolio.
It's a massive investment as well.
Yes. Look, you're talking about an excess of 20 million rand that we're looking at our portfolio, and now we can kind of structure that type of deal. So exciting times, stressful. And then in between of that, you still need to run the business. You need to look at people within the business as well as clients, our residents. And all of that adds to a lot of drama that you also deal with behind the scenes. It's not like an audit sheet where you tick a box and then the result is what you expected. People are, and that's one of the things that I enjoy learning about, as was how people react and what their responses are. My word of the month is common sense. What you perceive as common sense and what I perceive as common sense is vastly different. And people assume that their common sense is the way things should be, and that's where I'm learning a lot.
And how do you navigate that? It's quite a tricky one, because you didn't study psychology. You actually didn't study human resources. So how do you navigate that?
It's a tough one, because you need to kind of take it from where it comes. For me personally, like I've mentioned to you, I like listening to people. I like listening, whether it is the cleaner or the care worker that works on the portfolio, whether it's the CEO or the director on the board. Everybody does have input, and their experiences are different, and therefore you need to kind of learn how to merge the two of them. It's tough. You sometimes try and understand where it's coming from, and then you present some of that to your management board to see how they respond to some of these options. But the reality of it is that at the end of the day, you might need to take lead. You need to take ownership of the decisions that you take, and you need to be able to follow through on those with confidence. And I think that is, for me, what I believe has been part of my success with FLL Foundation, is the fact that we take in a lot of information. You need to dissect all of that information, and through all of that, you get an informed opinion, or your own informed opinion, and you can then present that with confidence. And that's what I like to do, and that's my approach that I take normally.
No, that's brilliant. And you mentioned quite an important aspect where you said, you and your CEO work closely.
Yes.
How important is that relationship in any business? CFO, CEO, you're pretty much stuck to the hip here.
You are 100% correct. No business runs with one individual. There needs to be collaboration between yourself and your CEO, particularly, so that the direction of the strategy is concise and that there's no confusion about what we would like to achieve. Even with me and my financial manager, we also work very closely together with one another to get a good understanding of what's happening and where we are within the business. When you are the CFO, you are sadly not always as much involved in the detail of the business, and you are reliant on people providing you with that information. And for that, a lot of the time, you asked me, what does a lot of my time take up? Meetings. Sadly, meetings are the bane of my existence most of the days. And not that all of them are invaluable, but I can tell you that a lot of conversation goes about meetings where people are providing you with their opinions. And that takes a lot of time, and you need to get your people on board. So it's not a case of just dictatorially saying what the strategy and the vision of the company is, but you need to be able to sell that on to your staff as well, so that they live the dream with you. And that's something that we work very hard on at FLL Foundation, is to get everyone involved. We've got a very flat type of management style that myself and the CEO, Gert Kutsia, has, where we do try and involve the managers, the senior managers, as well as the staff that work in the front line with regards to what they perceive as what we need to be able to do and what we need to focus on the most, because you're not always out there to see what's happening in the trenches, So yes, a lot of meetings and strategic input is always valuable from anybody.
No, 100%. And maybe just for our viewers who actually don't know what the FLL Foundation does, what do you do?
FLL Foundation is in the retirement industry. We have 9 properties across Johannesburg. On those 9 properties, we've got 14 different facilities that we run. And in these facilities, we provide different services, mainly independent living, where a still strong elderly person would buy into the independent living, and they will receive a cottage where they would live happily, hopefully, on. And then also we provide care, supportive living. So there's different levels of care that we would provide as a person age. And then also we have a facility specifically dedicated towards dementia care. Sure. Dementia is one of the biggest growing illnesses that are out there. And FLL Foundation have dedicated one of our facilities specifically to cater for their needs. Dementia is a very sad disease that happens, and we try and give them still the dignity that they deserve. We allow them to be able to walk freely on our properties, and that comes with its own challenges, I have to say. But the reality of it is we do try and give our residents still the dignity that they deserve. And that's one of the big mottos that we have, especially in our care centres, that we do look after our residents. FLL Foundation, from a business point of view, we have about 200 permanent staff that walk through our doors on a daily basis. Over and above that, another 180 agency staff that report into FLL Foundation with regards to the care services that we do provide. Our property value, from an insurance perspective at least, is around 1.3, 1.4 billion rand. And our turnover is around 130 million rand a year, which is not necessarily the biggest business out there. We're definitely not in the spectrum of the BDOs of the world. But I can tell you that the building blocks of that is pretty much the same as what the board of BDO would look at, and the conversations are pretty much the same that are being held at board level here versus what we are doing at FLL Foundation. I keep on saying to guys, if you are a CFO of a company that is successful, it's a simple task. But take a company out of the trenches of COVID and try and build that business up as the CFO. And so one of the guys are taking the responsibility of the company and all of the people that live there and all the people that are employed there. That's a complete different story. How you take a business that's struggling and then you rebuild it and you put it together. And then 5 years or 3 years down the line, you can sit here today and say, we are not sweating too much anymore. We're still sweating, but at least things are looking up for the future. Yeah,
and that sounds amazing. I mean, when you were going through that process, what was going through your mind? I mean, let's go back to that period when it was tough. When we're talking, Cyril says we're going to close for 21 days, and all of a sudden the 21 days becomes 2 months. 2 months becomes 6 months. What's going through your mind? How do you cope in that situation? Because a lot of people, we don't go through that and we don't know what it's like. But just take us through where you were mentally, physically, psychologically as well.
Yeah. No, I can honestly tell you it was a tough time. As a business, we were struggling. We were looking at the cash flow of the business. And like I've mentioned, your resident community deteriorates because you can't put new people in. And in that process, you do lie awake at night and ask yourself many questions. One of them being, "What am I doing here?" But the big thing is we pulled an emergency meeting with all the super senior people of FLL Foundation, and we had an approach that we took. And I can tell you, we made a whole bunch of decisions in that room about how we need to fight this COVID challenge. And at that point, like you mentioned, you thought by yourself, how bad can this be?
Yeah.
It's a month, is it 2 months? I mean, I think the first lockdown, I think, was for a month, I think.
21 days.
21 days. Yeah. It wasn't anything that we really need to be so dramatic about, So we made quite a few calls. And I can tell you 2 months later, probably 80% of those calls were mistakes. Because you don't know what you don't know.
That's very true.
But I think, and that's something I would like to put across to any person that's aspiring to grow and to be a senior person in a company, is don't be scared to make mistakes. Don't be scared to take a chance. And if you make that mistake, you fix it. It's not that if something goes wrong that the whole world's going to stop turning. Yes, you need to be very informed in the decisions you take. You must not be a cowboy and be reckless about how you go about your life and your things that you do. But in reality, if you have done your homework and you are confident in your decision that you want to take, you need to take it with confidence. And whatever must happen after that, you fix and you deal with it. And if it's great, you crack the champagne and you celebrate that. But if it's bad, you sit back, you lick your wounds, and you get yourself off that chair and you get yourself back in the game. And I think that is something for me that is what I've been working on since obviously the rough and tough of COVID is you need to just keep on pushing. The result will come. You need to be positive about what the end in mind is, and it will happen. Make sure that you communicate clearly. Like I've mentioned, myself and the CEO are very close with regards to how we operate and run the business. And we communicate that clearly to our fellow peers as well. And when you have the buy-in of everyone, it is a far easier process to manage rather than to have your dictatorial mindset pushing something out that people might not be agreeing 100% with. And then you need to be the owner of that mistake, should it be a mistake. For me, it is communication and confidence that you need to have in your approach. But make it sure it's informed.
So Leo, you've been through that period, you've come out of it. Where to now for the FLL Foundation? Where do you want to see it? What's the plan? Where do you want to take it?
Yeah, and the reality is that is kind of where we're looking at with regards to our management board as to what is next with FLL Foundation. I know that we're obviously trading in quite a competitive market out there where there are new retirement villages popping up, and FLL Foundation has been this year around for 60 years now, so we've stood the test of time. And I think the big thing for us is now we're focusing on our portfolio. What we want to be able to do is to be able to be proud of our portfolio and make sure that our aged portfolio is state of the art still. So we are, as we speak, busy upgrading one of our flagship villages in Willowbrook, which is just around the corner here in Sandton. So we're busy spending a lot of money there, which
that must have been a tough decision.
Yeah, that's another thing that people don't always realize is, and that's something that one of my predecessors, or my previous company bosses, the CEO Varsha, always said to me, Leo, because you don't see anything happening, don't think nothing is happening. Because we sit down in the trenches and you look and you say, guys, why haven't you made this decision? I sometimes have a lot of sympathy for the guys at Eskom as well, in a similar vein, because us as residents of South Africa look at Eskom and say, why don't you just fix that thing? Why don't you just fix the power station? You say it's broken, it takes you 8 months to fix it.
Just fix it.
Just fix it. What's so difficult?
But what's
about
happening in the background?
But behind the scenes, there are so many conversations taking place, so many decisions that need to be taken, because if you don't have this heap of cash sitting behind the scenes that you can just throw out and spend out, you need to be clear and concise about how you want to go about that. And sadly, in a much smaller way, FLL Foundation have sometimes the same pains, specifically me, like you say, I am the no guy at the office. But the reality is, you want to make sure that you've got all the information. You want to make sure that you've ticked all the boxes, and then you need to rock and roll. Then you need to make it happen, and you make it a reality, and you make a success of it. So, so we're spending quite a bit of money there trying to it's fairly vacant, that village. So we're hoping that the market will receive it quite positively, and through that, hopefully Willowbrook can be back on top of the world again. Okay. So yes, it's quite an interesting and exciting thing, We're also looking at spending some capital in further of other villages that we've got. We've recently just finalized Silver Stream, which is one of our other villages where we've rebuilt the community or redone the community center. So we are being proactive, You don't want to stagnate and sit back. Hopefully one day we will get an opportunity to either manage another retirement village because of the sector expanding so much. Not everybody that develops these things are experts in the field. And I can tell you, you need to be an expert. You need to have the backing of experts.
How important is that? How important is it being an expert in what you do?
Very important. You need to understand how the business ticks over and what the pitfalls are. And you need to be able to see them coming. When you are in the retirement industry, it is quite a complex industry, especially if you are providing care. Keeping in mind that you've got nurses on site, you're providing a small amount of medical intervention as well. It's 24 hours, so you need to be there on top of it all the time. Like BDO providing services, FLL Foundation is a services company. We, like I say, close to 400 staff that we run on a daily basis, providing services to residents. And dare I say that the residents that we deal with are a little bit more difficult than the average resident. But I say that with tongue in cheek. But the reality is that when you are dealing with ex-CEOs, ex-directors, ex-people that have been quite prominent in their industries where they've now retired from, they do expect value for their money. And that is something that we work on quite a bit, is how to provide value for money. I think in any business, that should be the core of what you are selling, is value for money. I think us as South Africans have become very resilient in just accepting any and every product offering that comes across your desk. Every year you review your medical aid bill or medical aid form to see what is in and what's out, and especially us as auditors will go into the detail of that in your insurance policy, what's included and excluded. Dare I say, your DSTV bouquet, everybody is feeling like DSTV is overcharging for something and I only want to watch the sport. Why do you give me the full package? So we are
Auditors,
Auditors. all built into to review each and everything that you spend money on, and it's your right. You should. So nothing wrong with that. But the sad reality is also, because of that, we all believe that, or we don't accept the fact that people also need to make a living and need to make money out of what they do. So and that's been a big challenge. We need to try and keep our levies as low as possible, but provide a world-class service, which all makes it very difficult to kind of appease each and every resident with what their expectations might be.
Striking that balance is very difficult, I must say, because as you said, you're revamping, you making sure it's state of the art, and at the same time, there actually has to be a buck in it, for yourselves as well.
Of course.
I mean, let's put aside the finances. You're also a marketing guy. I mean, tell us about that. Yeah. Where does that knack come from?
Look, I have had a meeting last week with our chairperson, Nombusa Ramagopa, and also a great person. And we've had more or less the same conversation around, who our people are that we need to leverage off, and how we can make the business more successful than what it is. And a big part of that conversation was marketing. And I said to her, we are all, when you talk marketing, every person does have an opinion about what the right way and what the right approach is around marketing, and what that perfect formula is of how much do you spend on print and how much do you spend on digital and how much do you invest in events and activities that can bring more people to your villages, and the reality is I'm not an expert. What I know is what I've kind of learned out of experience. I had the privilege of working for Prime Media for many years in the marketing side, where I was the finance manager for one of the marketing divisions that marketed malls in particular. And our job was, where the malls gave us money, we had to set the team up to be stationed at the mall, and that team were all marketing experts. in their own little rights. And the result of that was that you needed to make that money that they gave you go a long way. And that's where I learned by sitting in some of those meetings about how these marketing ladies and guys were hellbound about how they can bring more value to those malls. They measured any statistic that you could possibly measure. Like if you go to any marketing company that manages malls, they'll tell you how many people went through the doors. They'll tell you how long they stayed there. They'll tell you how much money they spend per minute. They'll compare that to how that was spent in the previous year and how they have grown it. And not the economy that's grown it, it's them because of their marketing that have grown it. And through that, you've learned that, marketing is not just about putting a newspaper ad out there or putting a Facebook ad out there. You need to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve out of the marketing that you're doing. Are you trying to sell something? Because you can look at Mazda on the TV, where Mazda will say, you can buy this MX-3, whatever it is, at 350,000 Rand, and your installments are in fine print there in the bottom. They're selling...
In a corner there.
Exactly. And they're selling a product because they want you to pick up the phone to go and say, listen, that Mazda that you've advertised, I would like to have one. When can I test drive it? But then also you've got Coca-Cola, who would be at, or Pepsi at the World Cups, where they would just have their banners up everywhere. And everybody sees Pepsi, 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 Pepsi. But nowhere do they say, hey, come and buy a Pepsi for $5. They're just trying to create awareness towards Pepsi. Now, when you're talking about FLL Foundation and the standard business, you try and kind of tap into both of those type of approaches. The one would be for a call to action, where you would like them to pick up the phone and ask more questions. And the other one would just be back of mind to say, if somebody says to you, I'm looking for my dad for a retirement village, he's struggling with dementia. And he says, listen, I saw on LinkedIn a post about FLL Foundation and dementia care, and maybe you just need to go and Google them, And then that call to action would be to just go and Google us on the website, So websites are vitally important in any industry, especially when you're selling products. And we as the community have learned how to grab your telephone or your tablet or your computer and Google whatever the hell it is you want, whatever you want to know. It is a case of not doing hard work anymore. You want an easy, quick fix, quick satisfaction around achieving what you would like to, or your objective quickly. So marketing for me has always been quite interesting to see what we put out in the market and what the response will be pertaining to that. Are we experts? Not necessarily. No, definitely not. Are we learning? For sure. We are learning a lot in marketing, and that will remain something that will be close to me in the sense of, marketing is like your insurance premiums that you pay every month.
Yep.
You don't believe that you're getting a lot of value out of it, but you need
until
to
you have
pay
that car accident.
Exactly.
And you do claim.
So from a marketing point of view, I definitely don't regard myself as an expert or a know-how about that, but I definitely am keen to learn, and where I can kind of leverage off someone else's expertise, I'm very keen to abuse them for that information, So marketing will always remain a passion to me, in the sense of not necessarily learning around marketing, but more what the response of a market is to certain marketing initiatives that one pushes out into the market.
And Leo, if we talk about our upcoming FMs, CA is looking at this and saying, I also want to be a CFO. What are the do's and don'ts of a CFO?
Yeah, so I don't want to say that there are many don'ts, because for me it's always about being confident in what you know and what your expertise are, and then going out there and putting it out into the market to see how the market responds to it. So for me, the biggest do for me is to follow your heart. Follow your mind and do research. Understand what it is you would like to achieve and push that forward. When you look at a FM position or a CFO position, do not go and look for the company that struggles. It's a hard yards, and I'm saying it tongue in cheek. The reality is that's where you probably will learn the most. You need to be willing to want to get your fingers dirty, get into the trenches and do the hard yards. The transition process from a finance manager through to a CFO is not a complicated one. You just need to keep your chin up, and perseverance will push you through. So for me, keep pushing. Have a positive vibe out there. My personal motto is passion. You need to have passion, not so much for numbers, but for business. numbers has very little to do. It's a big part, but actually very little to do about being the CFO of a company. It's more about being part of the psyche of that business and growing that and molding you and the business to become something better in the future.
Absolutely amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Leo Oosthuizen, have a passion for business, not the numbers. Clarity Unscripted.
Thank you.